Oh, but it's Johnny, and Johnny's been with me for 12 years. I don't really care if Johnny steals a little money out of the till. It's okay. I love Johnny. No, you fire Johnny. People get so emotionally attached. And understand, you want to treat your employees well. You want to take care of them. You want them to do good. You want them to do good by you. But sometimes the stars aren't going to align that way, and they have to go.
Welcome to the Eighth Gear Podcast. We have a great show for you today. We have Brett Sargent. This gentleman, he's actually run Vistage. I don't know everything about it. I know it's sort of a millionaires club of executives and entrepreneurs that is like a networking group for top level people. And he ran this at a very high level for 10 years, was chairman. Through that, he coached over 150 business owners. He has failed hard. He has won hard. He has built and run 5 different companies. So welcome, Brett Sargent. We can't wait to get into it with you.
All right. Sounds good.
Well, first of all, I'd just like to jump right into that you got yourself fired and it was the greatest thing that ever happened. What the heck is that about?
Back in 2014, my wife and I got married. We were down in Silicon Valley. And I said, where do you want to live? She's only lived in the United States, only in California, and I've lived in 9 different states. And she said, I want to live in Sacramento. And I'm like, what the? So we drove up to Sacramento, and it's 2 hours from anything, 2 hours from Tahoe, 2 hours from Napa, 2 hours from the ocean. And I said, okay, we can make this work. So I had to find a job. So I found a company. The name of the company was GridSense. I worked with them for about 10 months. So it took me about 3 months to secure the job. And one lesson I learned on that, if you have to work so hard to get a job, it's probably not meant to be. So when I walked into GridSense, they were doing $5 or $6 million a year in revenue. I had $5 million in backlog. I had $1 million in payables. I had no cash in the bank. So over the next 10 months, I ended up firing 50% of the employees, closing down all operations in Australia. GridSense was owned by Acorn Energy, which is a publicly traded company on the NASDAQ. And I was borrowing money from other sister companies of Acorn in order to try to make payroll. I was factoring receivables. I was factoring inventory. It was a living hell. And
this doesn't seem, Brett, sorry, this is Joe. This doesn't seem like your typical way of succeeding in business, right?
No.
What got them in that position to begin with?
Poor cash management, not being able to sell. They were on their 7th or 8th, when I walked in, 7th or 8th vendors for like machine shops and so forth. So everything was COD because they burned so many people. And so I ended up getting cross with the CEO of Acorn Energy. I will not name his name to protect the innocent, and ended up getting fired. And so I pushed the laptop across the table and said, I'm going to give you a 45-minute turnover. My wife was 4 months pregnant with her first child. And I got in the car and I said, well, I just got fired. She's like, that's great. Come home. I'll make dinner. And so that started it. On the way home, it was a 45-minute drive. I took all my credit cards out, put them on the seat, started calling for increases in all my credit card limits. All the way home, I increased my credit by about $125,000, roughly, by the time I hit the door. And I said, I will never, ever work for anyone else again. I am done.
That's awesome.
Oh my God. I love this story right now. This is amazing. I can totally relate to my life 11 years ago. Joe Faraci, tell him quickly. I mean, you have a grocery store story. I mean, it's not so dramatic as yours, Brett, but you had a similar decision.
I think at any given moment, right, there's an event or something that happens, and I would say that this is more typical than not, but there's something that happens to an entrepreneur that leads them to forge this path of doing their own thing, some sort of like defining moment. And as Sabran said, he went through that. I went through that. Fortunately, the younger you can experience that, the better. But that seems to be your defining moment. Is this something typical that you see, Brett, when because my understanding is you consult business now, correct?
Today, I only coach one or two businesses today. I stopped Vistage July of last year. So mostly I'm a business broker. So I sell businesses. I sell 25 to 30 businesses a year. And yes, this is very typical. My buyers, a good portion of my buyers are people that have been scorned in life. They're like, I am done. Find me a business that I can buy and own and run, and I can have control of my life. And so
the numbers are staggering, right? As far as the failure in small business. Based on your experience, would you say that the failures sort of come into existence because of mismanagement? Like, is that typically the number one reason? Is it cash flow? What for the viewers that are watching, like what causes a small business to fail?
I wrote a list of 10 things in preparation for this podcast of what I see that causes new entrepreneurs or more seasoned ones to fail. And the top two on the list is commit and cash. If you want to succeed in an endeavor that you're pursuing, you've got to burn the bridge. You can't have 1 foot in and 1 foot out.
I tell you, my story 11 years ago, my wife, we had a brand new baby, 9-month-old. In your story, you got a 4-month pregnant wife, and I was sick of not getting paid what I was worth. It was late October, and I said, by Christmas, I'm gone. You have until then to replace me. I was VP marketing. And I said, you have the time to replace me. I will groove them in. I will do everything. And the owner was so pissed with me. He said, just get out. And I said, it was the greatest thing that could have ever happened to me. And just like what you're saying, but probably not at the same magnitude, because I wasn't being paid what I was worth. Within 1 year, I was making twice. And within 2 years, I was making 3 times as much as I ever made as a salaried VP marketing but just start my own company. But like you say, I had fully committed. Like I had over the weekends created 3 clients. So I knew I could at least pay the mortgage, but there was that full commitment that you had to be all in. Because if you could be lazy about it, you're not going to do it.
That was cause of one of my first failures. So as I got fired and said, well, now what do I do? And so I started my own consulting company. I worked for years for General Electric and Lockheed Martin and DuPont. And, I went through all the knife and fork training that any human being possibly could go through, and traveled the world, been to over 50 countries, started offices in multiple countries. I'm like, it has to be worth something. So I started coaching businesses. And lo and behold, I got tapped on the shoulder out of nowhere to become CEO and president of a startup. And so I raised $1 million by shaking my tin cup, going to high net worth individuals in Silicon Valley, pitching to angel investor boards, and got $1 million and started to get it off the ground while at the same time coaching my own business.
Let me ask you this. Did you, in all this experience, was there this definitive formula for success? Like I could tell you, when I was starting my real estate investment companies, I was a slave to my business.
It's about 90% commit. You have to be, no one's going to care about your business more than the owner. The other 10% is PFM, pixie dust. It's the alignment of the stars, things falling into place. And a lot of people say, well, if you work hard, good things will come to you. Not always. It's the pixie dust. There's about 10% of things falling in place, lining up, you getting that one conversation that you didn't think you were ever going to get that helps you get to the next level. There's going to be times, and hopefully entrepreneurs don't all have to face this. There's times you're staring down a hard money loan because you can't make it to the next month unless you get that ridiculous interest hard money loan. But it's okay. You're going to do it. You'll pay that loan off and you'll survive. And a lot of people just can't do that. They just throw in the towel. They say, I'm not cut out for this. I'm shutting the business down. And you have to be prepared for that. It's not for the faint of heart.
When you say they're not cut out for it, are people born with this DNA?
I would say, I feel like there are two different, like if you looked at America, I don't know what the percentage of entrepreneurial owners there are versus employees. I don't know what that number is, but I would say it's two different types of people.
I do feel there's some people that are just not capable of doing it. They're not visionary. They can't solve problems, because that's really what an entrepreneur does. They solve problems.
Not to mention, from a marketing perspective, found a problem to solve that's big enough that the market wants it badly, and then you're going to make money doing it.
But I would say, Brett, and I don't disagree with you. I definitely feel that there's an element of, DNA involved, but times have changed. We've evolved because of social media and the awareness level in and around business, the tech, the tools to be able to develop into an entrepreneur. I think, wouldn't you agree to a certain extent that you can develop into an entrepreneur? A lot of people that are wanting to start their own business feel that, hey, maybe this is not in me to do, but the awareness level, the tech, the tools, I feel, are so much more accessible nowadays than ever before. So, do you kind of see that playing a factor?
Well, yeah, that's where organizations like Vistage, YPO, Young Presidents Organization, EO, and so those are entrepreneurs that are like, I don't want to go this alone. I need to be surrounded by other entrepreneurs that I can learn from, that I can ask questions of, that can help guide me to get through it. Absolutely. People that are willing to learn, willing to be trained, willing to explore, they could be entrepreneurs. There's no problem with that at all.
Well, I just wanted to, because I think it's very neat that you said you came to this podcast with, how did you word it? 10 things that every entrepreneur needs to know. I'd love you to go through that list, and we can maybe hit on topics we should talk more about as you go through this list.
So the first one on my list was to commit. The second one is cash. So people, and I sell businesses that are distressed, where they get in over their head and they run out of money. And people underestimate what it takes to feed that machine when you're starting out, or if you're an entrepreneur further down the road, what it means to like leverage yourself in order to grow. I have plenty of entrepreneurs. They have that big badge on their chest, debt free, debt free, debt free. And I'm like, that may not always be the right thing to do. Sometimes you have to get that loan in order to make that next big move to push you to the next level. And they wear that debt-free badge, and then they're stuck. And so you're saying embrace failure and don't be afraid of risk. Many times, if you are going to move, if you are going to grow, you're going to have to leverage yourself. And you have to get comfortable with doing that. Invest in that one piece of machinery, invest in those 2 hires you need to make, invest in that website that you've been putting off forever. Get some debt, get it done, get going. Number 3, we talked about already, is stomach. So do you have the stomach for this? Do you have the stomach? A good friend of mine, he runs an HVAC company. I've sold him 2 businesses as he's expanding. Every winter, because we're in Sacramento, so you don't really get a winter. You just get pounded with summers. But he's in his shoulder season, and he crawls out of his hole, and he gets a big, hard money loan. It's sickening amount of interest. Doesn't even blink at it. He's like, May is coming, June is coming, July is coming. It's the most wonderful time of the year for an HVAC person. And he goes, this debt will disappear by June. And he does it year after year. He has the stomach for the risk.
So he has a stomach for, accumulating the debt. just want to make sure that we're clear to those that are listening. It's strategically done. We're not going out there saying accumulate a bunch of debt and hopefully it'll help the business grow. In his case, it's pretty strategic.
Yeah, he is able to stomach that risk.
Because, you have to, ultimately, everybody, especially entrepreneurs, they want to live their best life. They want the freedom of owning their own business. And when that starts to impact everything else that they started it for, then you have to make that adjustment.
With that, I'm going to go all the way to number 10. All right, we're going to go back to number 4. So number 10 was no. You have to learn to say no. You're starting out in business. I want this done. I will do it. I will give you $500. Yes, I will do it. Hey, for $10,000, could you? Yes, consider it done. At some point, you have to start saying no. For this plumber, for instance, for him to have the quality of life, he should stay about 10 million to 15 million. That's where he should stay. Because then he can manage that. He knows what it feels like. He can get the money flow. But he wanted to grow. And so he started growing, and it induced a whole bunch of stress in his life. At some point as an entrepreneur, you have to understand what a swim lane looks like and stay in your swim lane.
Don't stretch yourself too thin.
But when you're starting a business, you say yes to everything. If anyone's got a wallet and a dollar bill lying up there, I will do it. Because you're trying to get that machine running. That's okay. You're getting your name out there. You're finding your swim lane. You're finding what you're good at. You're finding what you can make money at. But there's so many people that I sell their business and I'm looking at their profit and loss statement. And I'm like, you have a revenue stream of this. Do you make any money at it? No, not really. Why are you doing it? Because I've always done it. If you could say no to that, you could put more yeses in this bucket where you make a lot of money. So go back up to number 4, people. And so for people, hire slow, fire fast.
Oh, I love that. I definitely share that philosophy. Yep. Hire slow, fire fast.
And they just hang on. It's a warm body. It's someone who can open the retail store in the morning. I got to hang on to them. Oh, but it's Johnny, and Johnny's been with me for 12 years. I don't really care if Johnny steals a little money out of the till. It's okay. I love Johnny. No, you fire Johnny. And so that it just people get so emotionally attached. And understand, you want to treat your employees well. You want to take care of them. You want them to do good. You want them to do good by you. But sometimes the stars aren't going to align that way, and they have to go. Number 5 is culture. So I always thought core values were a bunch of horse crap. I'd have so many speakers come into this stage and say, core values, core values, core values. And so one day I sat down and said, what are the 3 things that piss me off the most? And voila, I had my 3 core values. And so I tell people, they're like, well, I have 6 core values. And I'm like, lose half of them. My company has 10 core values. I'm like, I bet you I can go to anyone in your company and they can only name 3 of them. So why don't you get back to 3 core values? Mine is respect, accountability, and responsiveness. It's the 3 things that when people disrespect me, when people don't own up and accountable, and when they don't get back to me, I get pissed. So I was like, voila, I have my 3 core values. Every time I have a staff meeting, I said, we're going to go over my 3 core values. Every time I put someone on a performance improvement plan, a PIP, everyone knows been on a PIP. And I say, I tie each item on the PIP to a core value. So that goes to your culture. That's your culture. The next one is SOPs, procedures, document. Tribal knowledge is the enemy. I see a lot of different companies as a broker for businesses. I get the chance to look at them. And I tell you, the ones that have very tight procedures are the ones that are not human being reliant. They're not tied into John or Joe or Mary or Sue. Because if Mary gets hit by a beer truck, heaven forbid, they have SOPs and they can go get Jane, and Jane can come in and follow the procedures, follow the processes, follow the onboarding.
How many times do you talk to a business like that and they don't, like, what's a percentage that they don't actually have SOPs?
75%.
That's staggering.
And yet, if you're going to try to sell your business, you almost have to have those.
You could still sell your business, but you're selling a job. You're not selling a business, you're selling a job. I sell a lot of jobs.
Brett, does the end buyer not request to see the policies and procedures, or are they just simply looking at the viability of the numbers, income statements, balance sheets, that sort of stuff?
So it depends on the buyer. If I'm dealing with a private equity group or I'm dealing with an investor looking to add to their portfolio, you bet they're all about the procedures. But if I'm dealing with a person who just got fired from Intel and is like, I need a job, I do not want to work for the man anymore, it's about the numbers and it's about, can I do this? My favorite words that I love to hear in selling a business is absentee owner. That's number 9. We'll jump to number 9. So number 9 is you. When you're an entrepreneur, it's all about you. You're the cook, the chief bottle washer, you're the salesperson, you bust the tables, you mop the floor, and you sit and sleep in the back corner waiting for the delivery person to deliver food at 4 a.m.
Okay, so how do you, because that's a common problem, especially in small business that doesn't necessarily have the infrastructure, doesn't have the set policies and procedures. There's a lot of small business owners that'll be listening to this, or people that want to get into developing their own business, that are afraid that they will essentially be wearing every hat. So how do you remove yourself from that?
You have to learn to let go. So when you're an entrepreneur, this is okay. You can be there. You can wear every hat. Get it. You're establishing yourself. You're getting the business up and running. But at some point, you're going to have to wake up and say, at some day, it cannot be all about me. And you're going to have to start writing down what you do and documenting what you do. And then saying, I make enough money. Hogs get fat, pigs get slaughtered. So I see a lot of entrepreneurs, they glom onto every dollar. That's more dollar in my pocket, more money. No, I'm not hiring someone. I can do it. Or when they hire someone, they're like, you're doing it all wrong. Get out of the way. Let me do it. If that person you hired, Helen, if she doesn't know how to do it, you need to start looking at different. I tell people all the time, be hard on your process, not on people. If that person is failing, the first thing that you should go to is like, let's look at the process, the procedure, the SOP. You're screwing it up. Let's go back to the procedure. So to answer your question, entrepreneurs need to wake up and say, I need to start writing this stuff down. The Brett way. It's the Brett way of doing everything. I need to start writing it down so that when I go out and I hire Helen, Helen has something to follow. So I
think Sabran needs to do that.
Oh, totally. I'm really glad that you're emphasizing this point, because I think too many people dismiss how integral that piece is to the long-term viability of any business, right? It doesn't matter how small or how big you are. 7
is financials. Do not run from your numbers. Oh, my bookkeeper takes it. Oh, my CPA does. No. Get online, learn how to read a P&L. You need to embrace and understand them. And the last one is the one that we let off with. Sell. As an entrepreneur, I'm a tech geek. You get me in the back with an oscilloscope and some circuit boards, and I can do wonders. No, you're going to have to sell what you're offering. You're going to have to find clients. You step up, baby. You're going to have to learn how to sell. Entrepreneurs avoid that 4-letter word sell. And unfortunately, to the best of my knowledge, there's still not a college degree out there that teaches anyone how to sell.
And it's funny because when you talk about writing up your hat as an entrepreneur, you need to write things down. For me, I sell like crazy. Like, that's my main hat in my company. I would have to figure out, how do you write down how to sell? Because it's all about relationships. It's about the way you read the person. There's so many nuances to that job. In my mind, that's a tough one to write up.
I always tell people, because I've been in sales for years. When I was at GE, I ran 600 million in sales for them at General Electric. It's people buy from people, and they never will buy from you unless they trust you.
Yeah.
And so, I own different businesses, and I always tell my people that are interacting with customers, smile, watch your tone level, do not ever judge, and earn their trust.
I love it. This was a great
fantastic
top 10.
Brett. It's been great to have you on with us. I think we definitely need to do a follow-up. I want everybody that are entrepreneurs and everybody watching the 8th Gear podcast with us to ingest and digest these 10 points that Brett's been talking about today and the details. And then let's definitely do a follow-up to give more information and talk more about this.
Just want to circle back so real quick to that very first point that you mentioned, which is commit. I'm a firm believer. This worked for me. I have no doubt that it would work for any business owner. You have to be willing to pay the price now so that you can pay any price later.
Great quote, Joe.
That's right.
Thanks again, Brett. Joe.
Awesome show. Loved it, Brett. Great insight.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for being with us, and thanks for being with the 8th Gear podcast. Definitely, if you hit the like button, subscribe, put a comment down there. We'll answer you and keep the questions going. Hit that notifications bell so you get our next episodes. Talk again later.